like Josh said, thank you to everybody that came out tonight. It's just a blessing to me every time I see how much support I have. Just being in the game so fresh, kind of been 2-3 years in real estate. It's just awesome to see how many people have kind of seen what I've been able to accomplish and just here to listen. And special thanks to Josh. Like he said, known each other for 2-3 years. We met at this meetup probably 4 or 5 years ago, and apparently weren't text official yet. But a couple years into that, we got to know each other, to do a lot of stuff, kind of just mastermind together. And one thing I love about Josh is how both of us look at so many different businesses. It's not just one thing or one industry that we're interested in, kind of that can make money. We want to learn it and see what we can do with it, because it's about multiple streams of income. Quick roll call. I know we did first meetings here. Who here makes a full-time income in real estate or lending, contracting, flipping, whatever it is? Raise your hands. And who here wants to make a full-time income in real estate? Okay, now everyone mingle, get to know those people, learn all the secrets. So some of my passions before I get started in my story, I just want to be up here tonight helping other people learn how to be the best version of themselves. I don't like talking about myself and the stories and things that I've done, but I hear it helps people out. So that's kind of what I'm here doing. And it just relationships in general, help people do business, grow business, because we all want to do business with the people we know, like, and trust. So just kind of want to get up here tonight, share some knowledge, some values, some stories of what I've done, and kind of, I guess, my whole life, and kind of take it from there. But 3 other passions of mine that I've been kind of strict to forever is health, wealth, and motivation. And health for me, I honestly never stepped into a gym until I was in college, but to today, I go 6 or 7 days a week. Unless I'm sick, on vacation, something else, I'm in the gym, because there is a connection between your physical health and mental health. And I think being the best physically you can, you're going to do better in business just by that connection. Next is wealth. That's why we're all here. We're all here for kind of building the legacies, creating the wealth behind both short-term and long-term potential, and motivation. So this is kind of a weird topic for me, but motivation, when we all get into something new, we want motivation to get started. But in a roundabout way, motivation is the byproduct of our action. And I don't think a lot of people understand that, but everyone gets on YouTube and they're like, Grant Cardone, let's get motivated. And no, you should take the action to produce the motivation for yourself to keep going. It's actions, results, then motivation. And I appreciate everyone out here tonight taking motivation from me and what I've done, and hope everyone else can kind of do the same thing and create motivation for themselves. Next is values. So another raise of hands. Who here has written down or typed out their values, either personally or in business? Okay. Exercise when everyone gets home tonight or tomorrow. Take 5 minutes and just think about them. Write down some values that are important to you, whether it's business, personal. Sometimes they intermingle, sometimes they don't. But just want to be transparent, since that's one of my values, and show everyone what my values are and why they're there. An acronym for mine are GRIT. Like, no matter who I'm around, whether it's our first meeting or 30th meeting, this is who I am front to back. I don't hide anything, but growth is number one. You don't always win things, but the stuff that you don't win, you still learn lessons from. And I think growth is so important to never stop growing. Every opportunity, every person you meet is an opportunity for growth. Next, relationships. I'm blessed to be here tonight because of my relationship with Josh Nix. Like, if we didn't meet each other, if I didn't foster that relationship and have it mutual, I wouldn't be here tonight. And same with everyone that's here to support me. It's all about relationships, getting to know people, and doing right by them. Next with that is integrity. a lot of people have integrity, but when the going gets tough, how are you going to act? When your back is against the wall and you have kind of a moral or ethical dilemma, how is your integrity going to come through? Are you going to be nice? Are you going to do the right thing for the people that it's for? Or are you going to take the shortcut, take the quick cash, whatever it is, and do something that could burn a bridge down the road? For me, integrity is one of my strongest things, and no matter how hard it's going, it's about the people, it's about the circle and family that I have around me. And next is transparency. If you ask anybody that I have a meeting with, I am transparent through and through, whether it's about business, about family life, about just anything. I am transparent because I think that helps foster those relationships. Being transparent helps with growth, relationships, and integrity, and it just kind of all ties together. And the longer you normally know someone, the more transparent you are. But I think if you're transparent and honest from day one, it will just grow so much faster. And then last is time. Time is the one resource that we cannot make more of. I can go out tomorrow, find a new deal, make more money, start a new business, whatever it is, but time we cannot produce more of. And kind of tying into wealth, time is what is needed for financial freedom. Like, we're all here creating real estate as an asset to retire someday, to have more time to spend with our friends and family. And I don't think enough people kind of take time into consideration. How do you value your time? What is your dollar per hour that you put on yourself? And if you don't think it's high enough, what are you going to do to increase it? So that's kind of a little bit about my passion and values, Josh. And next, I just kind of want to get into my story. So I don't have some fancy story to tell everybody. I grew up in a very middle-class Midwestern family from start to finish. And to today, my parents are some of the most supportive people out there. And they haven't always understood what I'm doing, but they know that I put 100% into whatever I do, which is one of the things they taught me at a very young age. They said, as long as you do it, and do it with your best effort, we're proud of you. And I think that's something that everyone should kind of take home, is that I don't care if you win or lose. If you put all your effort into it, you're going to learn something from it. You're going to get a new relationship. Something good is going to come out of your 100% effort. But kind of my parents, they were both from a town of 500 people growing up. So a very tight-knit small community where everybody knows everybody. And if Johnny's not at church on Sunday, everybody wonders where he was at. And that's kind of the mentality that my parents raised me with, which kind of goes back to they don't understand what I'm doing, but they still support it. But I grew up spending so much time outdoors. And what's funny, you ask my wife, I do not like being outdoors now. If it's doing yard work, no. If it's being in a pool or golfing, yes. But growing up, I was hunting, fishing, camping almost every weekend for Boy Scouts. And back in the 90s, when I was young, my mom said, go outside, go spend some time outdoors. And from sunup to sundown, almost every day of the week, I was outside. But kind of spending some time with my dad, and we'll kind of connect the dots a little bit later, but hunting, hiking in kind of central Nebraska, when you're going through fields and going through pastures, you come across fences. And I don't know how many people here have kind of gone through fields and pastures, but you got barbed wire fences and you got electric fences. Well, barbed wire fences, you can crawl under, you can push down on and just kind of walk over. You can pull it in the middle and walk through it. But electric fences, those are a different beast. You grab it and you're gonna let go real quick because it hurts too bad. But when you're trying to keep cattle in, sheep in, whatever it is, electric fences are kind of a must. So just have so many memories of being with my dad, hunting, fishing, being outdoors with him, and going back to time. Those are the experiences that I'm always going to remember. And those are the experiences as I get older that I want to have more of with my friends and my family. But my parents raised me in a way that I wasn't always happy with. They told me and gave me what I needed, but anything that I wanted, I had to work for. So at a very young age, I started asking my parents, hey, what can I do for money? Can I do chores? Can I do more chores? And just started stuffing my piggy bank full because I knew that those video games, the candy, whatever it was as a child, that's what I needed to do to get there. And they instilled savings and investing at a very young age for me. And I mean, today that's what we do. We save for the things that we want and we provide a roof over our head for everything we need. But at 13 years old, I started detasseling, and gotta ask, how many people in this room have detasseled? Awesome. Did anybody do it more than 5 years? Just have to ask.
I'm an idiot.
How many years?
7 years.
Awesome. And does anyone here not know what detasseling is? Megan from California. Do you want me to explain? Okay. So I detasseled for 5 years, and it was not easy work, but it was work and it was a way to make more money. And when I was 13 years old, I got paid $5.75 an hour to go through those cornfields in the hot, humid Nebraska weather. And looking back at it now, I kind of feel stupid about it, but it was money. And at 13 years old, it was the only way we could make money, because don't even know if you can work until you're 16 now. I'm not quite sure. But with my first year of detasseling money, I bought an iPod Mini, which I still have to today. And it should be in a museum here soon. But I think when I bought this was $250. And with the other money that I made that year, I put it into a CD. And back when I was 13 years old and had $500 in a CD, that at the time was making 5%. What are CDs at now? Like under 1% still? Yeah, nothing. But just having an iPod Mini, having $500 in a bank account as 13 years old, like I was happy. Like I thought I had it made. But even back then, my business mind was curious, how much are these detasseling companies getting paid? Because I know what I'm making and I know what these supervisors are making. How much are they getting paid per field? And I would go home and put numbers in a calculator that I'm sure were far off. But even back then, I started thinking about business ownership side of things. But then I would come home and my parents, middle-class Midwesterns, are like, oh, business, that's not something you can do. So I just kind of put it by the wayside. But funny story about detasseling is they also have electric fences. And have you ever seen like 100 to 200 kids walk through an electric fence or try and get over? It's quite comical. And occasionally people dared other people to pee on the fence. Heard a few screams, nobody died, so that's all good. But in high school and school in general, school came very easy to me. I don't have a story of flunking out, doing bad in school. I honestly got straight A's all through school. Studying came easy, testing came easy. Like, I just loved the process of learning, and that's kind of what has taken me to where I am today, is I love learning. I always want to take new things on and just keep growing, keep bettering myself. And in high school, I did a ton of activities. I did marching band. I was a band nerd. Loved math and science, but I golfed, I swam, I did theater for a little while. But I always gravitated towards the leadership positions in everything that I did. And for example, in marching band, I was the drum major for 2 years. So I was the person in front of the band just slapping my hands like an idiot in a penguin tux at the football games, and did not get any cheerleaders, so super cool thing. But for me, it was never a power play. It was never about having the power and the dominance over other people. It was always about putting someone up front that can help the other people do good. Because when there's 120 people in the band, if you have one bad leader, my mind already told me that can't happen. You want somebody up there who's out for the better of the group. And to today, like, my leadership style is very non-aggressive, but I want to keep bettering people, and I will just naturally gravitate towards that position. And kind of after high school, it just made sense to go to college, because that's what my parents told me to do. Graduate high school, get some scholarships, go to college. So that's what I did. And I went to UNL for mechanical engineering, graduated in about 4.5 years. I didn't get straight A's in college because it was a little more difficult in high school, but still did good. And I worked all through college. I'm very blessed to not have student loans when I graduated college, but I had scholarships. I lived off campus. I just did a lot of things in school to make it so I didn't have student loans. And student loans are something that doesn't get educated on. If you're 16 years old and want to go to college, most kids are like, I'm going to get a student loan. And parents normally don't say, no, that's a bad thing. You'll be paying it off till you're dead. So just very blessed that I naturally didn't have student loans, but I had an internship in college from my freshman year till after I graduated. And I worked 30 to 40 hours a week all through college doing full-time student stuff. So work in school was never a problem for me. And after I graduated with that diploma that gets you everywhere you want to go, I did what everyone tells you to do and went and worked for the man. You know, that corporate job that everybody loves to hate. I did that because my parents told me, hey, go get your college degree and then go work for somebody. Go get that insurance, that nice cushy job that you can do till you're 65, and then hopefully you can retire and get Social Security enough to continue living how you've lived the last 40 years. And in the back of my head, I'm like, this isn't right, because this just isn't for me. And let's do some hypothetical thing, connect the dots. Do you know what corporate jobs also have in them? And just our minds in general? Electric fences. How bad do you want to get into the next field over, the next pasture, the next field, whatever it is? How bad can you hold that wire and take the shock to get out of it? And for a while now, I would just go over and poke the fence and get shocked and be like, oh, no, that's not for me. And at some point, the gears started turning, and I just hated my corporate job. I was working behind a desk. I was seeing what salespeople were getting paid. They were going to lunch. They were traveling. They were getting more kudos from the boss than us at the cubicles. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. So instead of just going full self-employed at that point, I started getting into sales, getting some sales kind of training and learning the technical side of engineering sales, which was a lot of fun selling robotics. But at the end of the day, I still had a boss. And finally went over to this fence in 2018 and said, now's the time, let's get over the first hump. So I told my wife, Kat, okay, we're either gonna get into real estate or we're gonna purchase a bar. Which one should we do? Well, we made the wrong choice. We're still here today, but it probably wasn't the best choice. And I have no regrets on anything we did. But looking at what the market did from 2018 till I got into it, if I could have had those extra 3 years of appreciation and not crap with the bar, it would have been so nice. But when we got into the bar, we had about 20 employees. I was still working full-time corporately. My wife was running the business pretty much day in and day out. I was there after hours. I was doing all the maintenance. I didn't want to pay anything to do anything because I'm too cheap for that. So I did most of the maintenance myself. But at some point, like shortly after buying the bar, we realized that it wasn't for us. And then COVID happened. So that was fun. Owning a restaurant during COVID, I think we went from like 20 employees to close to 11 or 12 employees. And when we sold it, we still didn't have 20 employees back. But in kind of that COVID time, I'm like, well, my job is weird now too. Let's study real estate. So finally at that point in June of 2020, I went and got my real estate license and said, hey, I think there's something here. I can get rid of my corporate job. And I went back to this electric fence. I'm like, well, that first one to buy the bar wasn't so bad. Can I do it again? So I did. And talked to Kat. I said, I know we're in COVID right now. The bar is stressful. And talk about this a little bit later, but happy wife, happy life is important, but it's about the happy couple. Like, you have to have a good dynamic. It's not one happy and one sad. Either way, they both need to be happy. And there was just so much stress while having the bar that made getting into real estate and after we sold the bar so much easier because of the change of perspective. But in October of 2020, I fully quit my corporate job and started doing real estate full-time just as a real estate agent. I was also working with an investor here in town, getting a little bit of mentorship, but helping him scale his business. And kind of a little bit of where I am today, and we can talk on how this all developed, but I was getting mentorship, learning all the different avenues that there is in real estate, and I'm like, hey, there's a whole ecosystem around this. And it's hard to not get shiny object syndrome when there's so many things at your fingertips and so many different ways to make money in real estate. So you have to be a little cautious of that and not go all in too soon. But in April of 21 is when we finally sold the sports bar. And from then until now, life has just kind of exponentially changed in a great way. And I'm so fortunate for it. And again, I don't regret owning the bar. It was one of those experiences with the integrity, the transparency, and all my growth in it, that it was not a great success number-wise, but I learned and grew so much as a person. I now knew that I could work 80 to 100 hours a week for myself. And that feeling was better than anything that I could do. And I knew that most businesses probably won't be quite as bad as the bar was. And I might not have got to the next bad business yet, but I'm sure I will. But kind of how that's transpired is, as a real estate agent, I just hit my 2-year mark in June, and I've done about $11 million of transactions in 2 years, which most real estate agents, there's some that do very, very well and hit 10, 20 million a year, but to ramp up that fast was relationships, who I knew, and all of those relationships that I fostered previously. And then I'm like, oh, flipping, wholesaling, this is somewhat easy. And on one of my next slides, I'll talk about nothing of significance comes from just one person. It's not doable. So I was thinking in my head, I don't want to flip homes, I don't want to swing hammers. I can, but I don't want to. So I found a partner who does a lot of flips, just one at a time. That's all he wants to do. And I said, if I inject a little bit of capital, can we start doing 2 or 3 at a time? I source them, I fund them, you flip them. So we did that, and we just crushed 2021. And I love finding partnerships where you can add value to the other person. Everyone has different talents, different values, and it's about aligning them with people that fill the gaps. Because if you find the people exactly like you, you don't need 2 of you in a business. You need somebody that complements you. And 2 today, on the kind of wholesale flip side, I still do that. I have a partner that we're doing quite a bit with, about 4 or 5 deals a month is kind of what we're averaging. And we have 1 flip on the market right now, 1 we just bought last week that we're flipping, and it's going very well. And kind of the next, I guess we'll skip down to the long-term rentals, but right now I'm sitting on 17 doors. 2 of those are the flip properties, 12-plex in Council Bluffs, a duplex here in Lincoln, and then 1 other single-family home. But the only one that has cash left in it is the 12-plex in Council Bluffs, because we did the BRRRR method to an extent. We didn't quite fully renovate them, but we were able to refinance out the majority of our money. And I think on the 12-plex, we only have like 8 or 9% down left in it, and we just acquired that this year. So there are a lot of creative ways to get properties. The Next one is hard money lending. This is one that I learned about when I had my kind of first mentor and was a business that I really loved. And the piece about this that I really love is the giving back to others. With the wholesaling, with being an agent, it's all competition. And I have abundance mindset. There's enough homes for everybody out there to make money on. But on hard money lending, I could educate people because I wasn't competing for homes with them. I was just funding them. And it's in my best interest and my morals to help them, to guide them, to give them education that they didn't have before. So, and I know Josh shares this, when we lend to people, we help educate them. We make sure that they do a good job on the flip, not just to get our money back, because we want to help more people get to the top. A few other businesses that I'm kind of part owners in. One of them is the organization, which you've probably seen a little bit on Facebook of, but we meet here the first and the third Monday of every month, actually in this room. And it's a mastermind group focused on all business in general. Don't care what industry you're from, if you're new, if you're experienced, if you have 1 employee or no employees or 20, we want to help you kind of get to the next step of your business, whether it's marketing, grow a CRM, just build a lot of those systems out that if you're kind of sole proprietor, you may not have access to those resources. And kind of linking back to the organization, when I was in Dallas a month ago, we took 12 people from Lincoln down to Dallas from this group. And not just owners, there's 4 owners in the group, but we took down people who just wanted to experience a 3,000 people and business owners at this mastermind. And Eric Thomas was there at my lab. There was a lot of big motivational speakers, and it was just so impactful to help other business owners get there. A new business, here's water. A new business that I recently got some kind of ownership in is called Fulcrum HR, and they are an HR and a business consulting company. And they can kind of help outsource your HR needs, whether it's documentation, onboarding, offboarding, as well as payroll, recruiting. They can kind of help with all of that. But on the business side, like they work with a lot of businesses that also do mergers and acquisitions and trying to grow and scale their business, just like we do at the organization, help them grow to the next level. That way they can do succession planning and get out and sell their business so they can get to the next step of their journey. And then kind of the last one is a national syndication group called Insider Investor Club. And this is one that I just joined this year, but this is how I got part ownership in a beach club in St. Augustine, Florida, which is just crazy to think about, but a beach club I didn't even know is like a country club, like Firethorn or Wilderness Ridge, but on the beach. And I didn't know that was a thing because we don't have beaches in Nebraska. But I'm just under 1%, 0.5% ownership in this, but it was an opportunity to kind of see large scale refinances, land development, business development, taking over an existing business that does millions of dollars a year and kind of seeing that through with a group of people that are like-minded nationally that are just killing it in their game. So I'm very fortunate to be a part of that group. And I don't have any ownership in that business, but I love it. Now, kind of some of my golden nuggets or takeaways from tonight that I want to touch on is reiterating nothing of significance can be accomplished by just one person. Like, I don't care how big you think you can be by yourself, you are never going to be able to do it by yourself. Whether it's needing a lawyer, an attorney, a partner, money, leads, marketing, there's just so many different things that you can get to a certain point by yourself, but without bringing other people on, which goes back to relationships, is you need other people on your team. And you want to have people that you know, like, and trust, that you have values that work with each other. And just on here is reassess your goals and pivot. Show of hands, who checks goals more than once a year in this room? Okay, so most people, and sorry if this is anybody in the room, but most people on January 1st go, it's a new year, here's my resolution. December 31st, oh darn, I missed it. And that's all they see for goals for the year. Well, if you want to act more like a business, like an enterprise company, how often do they check goals? Every week, every day, multiple times a day in different departments? Like, do you want to be a sole proprietor just by yourself, or do you want to be a large-scale business? And it's a question, just personally, but what side of that do you want to be on? Just need to kind of set goals more often, and if they don't hit, if they don't click, if you decide that owning a bar is not for you, how do you pivot outside of that? What's your exit strategy? And kind of with real estate, a lot of the people in this room talk about exit strategies. You probably don't buy a property just with one. You try and get multiple. Next on the list is extreme ownership. And this is one that I've always believed in, and recently didn't even know there was a book until this year on it. But it's extreme ownership. Highly recommend you reading it. If you are by yourself, if you have a team, if you have employees, how do you kind of guide, what expectations, what boundaries do you put on people? Because at the end of the day, if you're flipping a house and your contractors did not follow through, that's not probably on them, it's probably on you for not following through with what you told them needed done, or checked on them enough, or did the things that you told them you would do. But if you did set all those expectations and did set boundaries on what you want them to do, then you can tell them to kick the can. But if it happens too often, you should probably reconsider it, pivot, and create a new business plan, new handbook, whatever it is. Next on the list, work-life balance, and I put or lack thereof, because for me, work is life and life is work. There is no kind of in between. I'm always working, but it's also goes back to the happy wife, happy life, both being happy with what you do. My wife is one of the most accepting and supporting wives out there. And if I say, hey, I want to work 20 hours today, get 2 hours of sleep and do the same thing tomorrow, or hey, I need to go out of town for 3 days, she goes, okay, see you when you get home. And when you're in business and trying to grow, like everything to me is business. And it is just so important to have, and again, it's your own personal choice, what is your work-life balance? How much do you want to work? And at some point in life, I know it goes back to time, and we're trying to work for our time later in life. Next is just the passion for helping others. That's one of the underlying themes of who I am and what I do. Is it's lonely, like what I read, is it's lonely at the top. The higher you get up the food chain, the less people that are there. And when you help people get up there as well, you have helped your friends that you know, like, and trust, your business partners, get up there with you. And now you can all go on vacation together. You can afford to go on vacation together. You don't have to take vacation days from your job to go on vacation together. Like, it's just very important, in my opinion, to do business with the people that you can help bring up and work together. On here, network, network, network. This is probably one of my secret sauces that everyone says, how have you grown this fast? It is the people. It is nothing else other than the people and the connections that I've made in my journey. And the networking side also goes back up to the work-life balance. If someone messages me at 8 o'clock at night and says, hey, do you want to go get drinks and talk about this business idea? Sure, sounds great. Where some people are like, oh, it's 4:59, we're gonna have to cut this off till tomorrow, sorry. And to me, the networking is just one of the most important pieces. Don't be afraid to talk to people. One of my favorite kind of rules that I've put in place for myself is if I'm at home watching TV, sitting on the phone, whatever it is, not working, and someone says, hey, do you want to go out? It's always a yes. You never know who you're going to bump into. You never know who you're going to see in public that could become a business partner, and it's just so important. And then lastly, my story, the electric fence, be comfortable with the uncomfortable. There is no way around that. How much do you want to change? How bad do you want it? I can tell you, once you get over that first electric fence, that first change, that first struggle, it gets so much easier. And actually thought of this on the way here. Kat's like, hey, don't forget to put this in your speech. But each time you jump over a fence, you get into a new pasture. Well, the people that have kind of shiny object syndrome, they just start hurdling and running over fences, and they don't take the time to nurture, water, plant, grow this field into what it can be. And when you spend the time doing that, your crop is going to come up, and then you can go to the next field and come back to this one when it needs taken care of. But those pastures, not going to tell you they're always green because owning bar, but most of them can be green with the time, the energy, and the effort to make them that way. And just kind of want to leave you with that change is possible. Anything is possible for all of us, because I've done all of this literally in about 2.5, 3 years, and it is possible. Don't doubt yourself. Don't doubt your parent, or don't let your parents doubt you. Like, growing up, and still to this day, I had dinner with my parents this weekend and said, hey Dad, I bought into a new business. And he was like, how'd you do that? And I'm like, I don't know, I just did. It's like, okay, good job, son. And I mean, you're not always going to have supporters. There are going to be people that dislike what you're doing. But if you do it for the right reasons, you will grow and succeed. This last page is just kind of my contact info. If anyone ever wants to grab coffee, network, let me know. I'm always open to it. Just want to open up for any questions. Bill.
So the work on your fence analogy, from somebody who's actually held on an electric fence for over 30 seconds.
Never would have guessed it was you.
It was me. My cousins, I used to have contests to see how long you could hold on to that fence. But kind of use that same analogy, kind of give the example of if you grab a hold of somebody else's hand while you're holding on to the electric fence. Kind of as a spouse or as a business partner, how that works.
Yeah, so tandemly holding an electric fence isn't fun for either people, but again, it's how uncomfortable and how much nerves, like being uncomfortable. Tonight, ask Kat, I was nervous for about a week prepping for this. I'm like, are the people gonna like me? Like, what are they gonna think? But I'm like, I need to do this. This is a chance for me to get on stage, talk in front of a ton of people, but just having that support. And we just have a weird dynamic where if one of us is kind of down on the dumps, the other one is there to pull us up. And not all relationships are like that, but we've been very fortunate to do very well together and just support the decisions we make. Because I think if you're both grabbing on, if it's in a relationship, you both have to have good intentions and accept the outcome. Anybody else? Colton.
What are you most excited for? Particular business, particular project, like particular property?
What gets you excited?
Probably out of the businesses that I have right now, the top two that I'm most excited for is Quick Draw. I just love that business. I think it's easily scalable, and we're kind of putting systems in place. There's me and 2 other partners, and we have 2 employees on it, and I don't work probably more than 5 hours a week at it, and it's just great being able to focus on the business itself and not focused in the business to get that next deal or that next sale. But Fulcrum is honestly one that I'm super excited about because I think there's so much potential with consulting. I love helping people, I love speaking and giving knowledge, and I think that just meshes so well with what that business does.
What'd you call it, Fulcrum?
Fulcrum HR Consulting.
Oh, okay.